Welcome to the Safe Space Running Podcast, where our mission is to encourage, empower, and enable. I'm truly honored to have today's coaching guest, Tunde. Tunde, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well. Day after Thanksgiving, so
I know, I know, right? I was extra gluttonous. I ended up, not only did I go to my parents' house to get mac and cheese, ended up coming home to make more mac and
oh,
cheese.
wow.
So I need to go somewhere. I need to go somewhere and sit down. Both me and the wife was sitting there extra greedy. What was your favorite dish from yesterday? Do you have one, your go-to for Thanksgiving?
Um, I didn't go home this year, so my
Mm.
favorite dish for Thanksgiving, I think, has to be mac and cheese. It has to be like the five cheese mac and cheese, though. Like,
See, yeah.
yeah.
You gotta have the blend. Don't
Mhm.
just give me the no. Don't get me wrong. I love me some Velveeta, but don't just give me the whole block and just the block and that's it. Just you gotta mix in some extra cheeses in there.
Mhm.
That's where it's at.
Yeah.
So for those who are tuning in, Tunde is a phenomenal athlete and phenomenal coach. He is the Chasing Roses founder and the Atlanta Track Club captain as well. So I have so much respect and it's truly an honor to speak with you. As part of this series, as we talked about, we're looking into coaching. I've went into the coaching space recently, and I know that we have people who are looking at different coaches and trying to figure out what best fits them. But we wanted to at least give people the resources to know what to look for and what principles coaches should have as they're coaching their athletes. So before we get into the nitty gritty of that, I wanted to ask you, what is your why? Why did you decide to go into coaching, and what was your motivation behind it?
For me, coaching came about during the pandemic. It was more of a
Mm.
selfish thing. During the pandemic, well, before the pandemic, I ran part time, and my main sport was basketball. And
Oh, really? So you're a hooper?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I hooped a little bit of my day. And I played, and I ran when I could. And then during the
Mm.
pandemic, um, it forced everyone, inside, indoors, and there were no gyms open where I could play basketball. So I was like, let me kind
Mm.
of dive into running, and my PRs weren't anything crazy because I didn't really take it seriously. But then as I um, ran more, I was like, oh, what if, like, I know it's a crazy goal, but what if I qualify for the Boston Marathon? And back then it was a
Mm.
lofty goal. My PR was like a 3 like 50, 3:48, somewhere around there. And I was like, what if I qualified? And so I was like, the only way I'm gonna get better is if I start, put together like a real plan. And just so happens,
Mm.
where I got certified, Road Runners Club of America, RRCA, they used to only have coaching in person, and then they started doing it virtually. And so I took the opportunity and just signed up for a virtual class um, and certification, and that's how I started coaching.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I like that. I've looked into the RICA class. It looks like a really good one. There's a couple people that I've talked to as well. But I think it's admirable that in chasing your own goals and going for that sub three, that you went into the coaching spectrum and then started to coach others as part of that. What would been as you were building your plan? What was one of the big lessons you had when making your plan and working through that towards that Boston qualifier?
I think for me it was the the idea of consistency. Um,
Mm.
before I learned how to coach, before I learned how to build plans, I would run like twice a week. In marathon running, like some of the staple runs are your long runs. Some of the staple runs are
Mm-hmm.
like your track workouts or speed workouts. I wasn't doing any speed, and my
Mm.
long run might have been like 14, 15 miles, maybe.
Wow.
And so,
Mm-hmm.
I learned consistency, time on feet, that matters more than, these super specific, training plans or training runs. So
Mm.
those are the two things that I learned the most in coaching myself and also coaching. When I first started coaching, I didn't like have a business. I just coached my friends. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and so I use them as guinea pigs.
Well, clearly it's working because I know you started a project which is you've got people who are signing up who wants to chase for a sub 3, which goes into our topic today of goal setting.
Hmm.
And I know that you've worked with different athletes who come into you, whether they're big goals, or lofty goals, or over ambitious or under ambitious goals. For you as a coach, how do you set the expectations and properly help athletes with setting their goals as part of your training plan, as part of working with them? What steps and things do you look for to help them set proper goals to ensure that they're successful?
Um, I don't know who said this quote, but the question is like, how do you eat an elephant, right? And it's a bite at a time, right? And so, like I
Yeah.
said, like my first marathon, I was like a 3:48, and actually my second, I went backwards from 3:48 to like a 3:56, right? And then
Mm.
I'm not gonna jump from a 3:56 to a sub three. Like you chip at it, time and time again. And like I think with training, no matter what your goal is and what your goal distance is, whether it be a marathon or a half marathon, or even a 5K, whether um whatever your goal is, like you have to like chip at it piece by piece and have an overall plan. Like I went from 3:56 down to I think a 3:12, and when I that's when I moved from Seattle to Atlanta, and I saw a
Okay.
huge jump. And then the faster you get, the smaller those PRs become. And so I said, all right,
Hmm.
for me, I went from like a 3:12, I think, to like a 3:02, and then from a 3:02, then I finally went sub three, and I ran at 2:58. And so it took me what four to five marathons in order to get to my goal.
Mm.
And so if you're coming into it thinking, oh, like I'm gonna run the sub three in my first marathon, I mean it happens, but
Yeah.
or I'm gonna run a sub 20 in my first 5K. Like there are definitely outliers, but most people are not gonna jump into a sport like this with running and automatically hit your goals. Cause that's not how running works. That's not how life works. So
Hmm.
you have to have a plan, a long term plan, um, because I see running as a lifestyle, not something that you jump into to get a goal and then jump right back out of. Like if you see it as something that you're always chasing something, not necessarily a time, but maybe a mental state where you want to be with
Hmm.
the sport, then you're always going to be satisfied, and then you're always going to be wanting to embrace the process of running.
I love that you said that last point of that mental state of what you achieve as part of that. There was one thing I remember when I did my first marathon, and my friend Daniel Mata, phenomenal person. We were chatting about it. And he was like, "You started a healthy relationship with the marathon." And in the sense of not trying to be overtly ambitious, but just enjoying the process and not setting too high of expectations for yourself. We trained, in all fairness, for the sub 3, but I love that you mentioned the mental state and how much that plays a role in setting those expectations. I know there's like this honeymoon or glorious moment we have when we think about these goals and outline them, but I think your mention of chipping away when you eat an elephant bite at a time kind of thing, chipping away at it and being patient is that. I think that's so important for us to emphasize to our athletes as well. It's just trusting in the process, consistency.
Yep.
It's funny that you mentioned that it took you 5 marathons to get to that, but it really shows the discipline and how you really layered out your goal setting and expectation to just get it bit by bit instead of just trying to build Rome in one day kind of
Oh
thing.
yeah.
So I think that was really cool. I like that perspective.
And then like I think, at least for me personally, like I ease myself into the sport of running. I know running. There's been a running boom lately, and then everyone kind of jumps into it, and they see especially. I'm only speak for like my personal bubble. Like I see black runners jump into it, like, oh my god, you're fast and I want to be fast too, and I want
Hmm.
months, but I want to run Boston this year and I want to do this. And I'm like, if you do these things and you have this attitude towards like, all right, I see everyone doing this and I want to do it too, you're gonna compare yourself, and then it's so easy to burn out. um
Mm.
and like I think I could literally not run another race again, and I would still run 5 to 6 times a week because again,
Yeah.
like I, it's a part of my life now, and I will be
Yeah.
running into my 80s still, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think if you have that approach with running, like everything else, all the other goals will take care of themselves.
I love that. That's a beautiful, beautiful perspective. Running is a long time sport. We want to be in this for the long term, and setting honest, realistic expectations, I think, is so crucial. I've been dealing with that here back home, and just when different communities, it's just they see people wanting to do things just because it's difficult or hard, but there's a process and there's a healthy way to do things. And I think with goal setting, setting realistic and healthy goals that really align with the nature of the sport of it being a long time patient sport, it's really it makes me happy to hear your perspective on that and how you're pushing that into your athletes. So that's pretty cool. So the last question I have for you then is, as mentioned, I know that we talk with a lot of different people, and we have different, whether it be new coaches coming into the space or people who are just looking to pass advice on to others as part of their running and walking journey.
Okay.
What would be one thing you would pass to a new coach or someone who's really thinking about entering that space, whether it be official or unofficial?
I think being open to learning, because as coaches, okay, so outside of coaching, I'm also a professor, and I never go into. I teach everywhere from incoming freshmen all the way to sometimes I teach graduate students, and I never have the attitude where it's okay because I have a PhD, I'm smarter than you, right? Like I'm open to learning, right? And so no matter what level you are, you can always teach someone. You can always be taught, and so as a coach, I no matter who I'm working with, like I'm always open to suggestions. I'm always open to, okay, this doesn't work for this athlete. This plan or this idea may work for this athlete, but it may be a complete 180 for another athlete, right? And so, so I'm always open to learning, and that's the advice I would pass on to another coach. Always be open to learning.
I love that. I love that. I think it's my coach, my personal coach, always talks about being a student of the sport. I'm sure we've all heard that term in many different ways. And it now explains a lot that I knew you were dope for running, but now you're extra dope for being a whole professor and then helping educate. So coaching and enabling others and empowering others already in your blood. So I want to personally thank you for what you do for the running community. You could be doing anything else. You could take your talents and, keep them to yourselves, but you've reached out to others. And I love that you've started that program to really help athletes hit that sub-3. You have the experience, you have the know-how, but the fact that you take that know-how and enable others to do that, I, for one, appreciate you. And I thank you for what you've done for the community, whether it be running and walking, and the contributions you made. So truly thank you for all that you've done. It's been inspiring.
Thank you. Also, I'll be remiss if I didn't shout out, her name is Ashley Davis. She is the founder of Club Seattle Runners Division, my old club out in Seattle, and she's the one who kind of approached me with the idea because she just ran New York, and she's been chasing sub-3 for a while, and she was like, hey, I know some other people who want to run sub-3, and what do you think about this? And then so we've been working tirelessly behind the scenes trying to get this thing started for the spring training cycle, or winter training cycle, going into spring races, and then hopefully, depending on how it goes, we're going to have another session where we have other athletes who are going for sub-3 in the fall as well.
Well, don't be surprised if you see me on that list, because I want to be able to pick you guys' brain. And it sounds like Ashley will need to be next on this podcast as well at this point.
Oh, yeah.
But no, I would, like I said, I'd love to. I'm sure this is well, I'm gonna say it this way. This won't be the last time you'll be on here. I'll tell you that now. I appreciate your perspective, and like I said, your depth of skill and knowledge and the humility you have in really enabling others is truly inspiring. So. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a great holiday season at this point as well, but I'm sure we'll be in touch soon. Thank you again.
All right. Thank you.